Back with my brother JR. Different mothers, same father as always. And I've got some ideas of what I'd like to connect with you on. I've been reading this book called The Way of the Heart by the Shanti Crystal Foundation. I always reread it, and they're channeling Jesus in it. I always find I'm in a new place when I read that book. It's kind of like the book I go most back to. And then I always kind of reference other things, Bible, other things as well. But like that's kind of like my main book. And some things that I'd like to discuss hit differently this time that I'm reading it. The main one being this concept of, the first concept that they talk about is this rule of responsibility. And it sounds real simple when we put it away or whatever, like we diminish it. But this concept that I am created in the image of a creator, always made to create. Whatever I'm experiencing in my life, I've created it. I've chosen it, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And we start there, right? I have agency and I'm created like the creator, made to create, and I'm always creating. And whatever I'm creating, not only have I chosen it, so I'm responsible for it, and not responsible like I beat myself up, but I chose this. I accept responsibility for it, and I chose it out of my consciousness. And then the second piece of that is there's not an error in choosing something to create other than the kingdom, right? To choose to create an ego or to choose to create something that is unlike love, there's nothing wrong with that. What happens is we identify with that wrong creation and we identify with it as us. So that quote unquote wrong creation, call it a miscreation. This thing we created that was other than love, out of an energy of fear or whatever it is, we identify it. So then we create the ego out of that. And then it's this essence, this false identification with that then creates the illusion of separation. And JR will break this down simpler for us, but ultimately we identify with it. And as soon as we identify with something, we create not a reality of separation, but like an illusion of separation. It feels like we're separate. And the moment you're separate from your creator, there's an illusion of separation. Now, all sorts of mental disorders, all sorts of mental health issues arise because you're separate and you're not whole. So I'll stop there and we can go deeper in that if you want. But that to me was really understanding at a much deeper level. The main core issue is the illusion of separation, and that we forgot how to come back to wholeness. And the reason we forgot to come back is because we identified with this false illusion that isn't us, but we think is us. And we're afraid to let that go and heal that. And we try and heal that in the human world, meaning we try and do that on our own out of the human sense. And the human is the one that got us lost. The human can never bring the healing, right? That's what we have the Holy Spirit for, grace for. You're not going to find, the human is not meant to find a solution. The human is part of the problem. That makes sense? The human identification with the ego, with separation, with smallness, littleness, fear.
No. I'm gonna ask you.
Please.
How would you explain this to your kids? Because there's no way they would understand what you just said.
Thank you. Great question. You know, the blessing of the kids, JR, and you and I have kids. You know, it's funny. It's amazing. You know what I called this show, bro?
Not yet.
Remembering innocence. And then on the description, I put, unless you become like a child, you can't enter into the kingdom of heaven.
Really? I got to see that.
Yeah. And my point with this is kids don't have this separation problem. That's why all of us, when you see a little baby, you smile, because you can see their innocence, right? So we have to remember the innocence. We have to remember that even if we made the wrong choice or created out of that, not the wrong choice, even if we made a choice out of fear to choose and believe this other identification we made, we can remember that we're still innocent. So, and my daughter doesn't have to remember innocence. It just is the natural default. Somewhere along the line, we made the choice to be other than what he made us to be. You with me? So really, I would say, sweetheart, Valentina, somewhere in your age, when you come 11, 10, 12 years old, you're going to make a choice to just experience, just to, out of curiosity, just as a child. Hey, I'm tired of all this freedom and bliss and peace and joy and love. I wonder what it would be like to choose out of fear and see what that feels like. Just to play, just to see what that sandbox feels like. Cool. But when she makes that toggle switch, almost like a little like iPhone toggle, when you switch that on, the challenge is most of us at that age will become identified with that fear. We think that creation that we made out of fear is a reflection of us. Much like how choosing an investment that doesn't serve us, you and I were just talking about an investment, much like that investment would be like a reflection on us, but it isn't. It was just an innocent choice. And then the benefit is you get to say, hey, I'm completely innocent in this, and choose again. and make another choice. The reason it becomes hard for us to make another choice, JR, is because we become identified. The ego in us becomes, the ego that we created becomes identified with that choice we made in the past. And again, I'm going to say it again. The challenge was never that made, I'm calling it the wrong choice, whatever my language is, but get what I'm saying, not so much my language. What I'm saying is we made a choice that was other than love. And there's nothing wrong with that. We just wanted to experience something that was different. We got tired of love. We got tired of bliss. We wanted to make another choice to experience it. Nothing wrong with that. We have full permission to create like the creator creates and to uncreate like he creates. That's full permission. And we chose to create differently. We chose to create out of fear, out of something else, right? Out of separation. And the challenge is that then we became trapped there. The human in us became trapped there, and now everything is separate. So now there is an illusion of separation. So now you're separate from that. That right there is the foundation of all our problems. This goes back to as far as Adam and Eve, right? As a beginning. This is how far that goes back, right? Adam and whatever the partner was, right? This is how far back that goes, right? You made a wrong choice. I'm calling it wrong. I'm judging it. It's not a wrong choice. You made a different choice. Here's the wrong choice. The wrong choice is you became identified. So Valentina, listen, you're going to make a choice out of fear. And when you do that, it's fine. Experience it. You chose it. Do you want to continue in that energy or you want to go back to the kingdom? But that choice isn't the truth of you. It was just a choice you made to experience it. And you're completely whole and perfect and innocent, and you can choose again. That's as simple as it is, JR.
It ain't simple. You're still dancing around. I don't think a 6-year-old would understand what you're saying. Like I'm talking about, how does a 6-year-old understand that? Because the reason I'm pushing you here is because you're learning, but if you can't teach it in a simple way, then you don't know it well enough.
I agree with you, man.
That's what I'm saying. I want to force you to simplify that into words. And I think you have the nucleus of the idea there is not identifying with your bad decisions. Bad choices don't make you a bad person. Like that would be the way I would explain that to a kid.
Yes.
But all that other stuff you're saying,
I agree.
I don't get it.
No, so let me back up a second. Yeah, thank you, JR. Tina, you just made a bad choice. That's not who you are. You just made a bad choice in that moment. That's it. And now forgive yourself and make a new choice. And make a new choice out of your right mind, out of your right conscience. Make a new choice out of your divinity.
You're going off on a tangent again. You have it there too, right? Yeah. Now you get to make another choice. And right. I think the part is that I feel like is getting lost with all your words is that we get to choose every minute of the day. So what choice are we going to make? And the other piece that you said there that I think is important to all of us is forgive yourself and move on.
Before the forgiveness piece, something that has to happen that's critical here is you have to embrace your creation. Whether it was, you have to embrace that you made that choice. Otherwise, you can't forgive it. Meaning, okay, I made a choice that wasn't in my highest good. Hey, I made this quote unquote, let's label it, call it bad. It wasn't a bad choice. It was just a neutral choice. There's nothing good or bad. It just, you made a choice that wasn't in your highest good. You have to embrace that choice. A lot of times what we do, oh, I didn't choose that, right? We try to deny responsibility for it. We do. I do it all the time, Jay. My wife calls me out. Why don't you take responsibility for that? You know what I mean? Right? Step one is taking responsibility for all your choices. Nothing is happening to you. You've chosen this. You selected this. You made that choice to be separate. You made that choice to choose to eat the cookie, for lack of a better term. And nothing wrong with eating the cookie. Embrace it. I made this choice. It doesn't feel that good. I'm going to make another choice. And each moment you can make a new choice. And that's where your power is. That's where all your power is in the present moment to choose anew. That doesn't mean you get to not accept responsibility for what you've chosen already. And then out of you, once you embrace that, then you can forgive it.
Yeah, I hear you saying own it. I want like 3-word answers from you. When you give me like 3-word answers,
help me.
How are you going to teach your kids this? Is what I've been thinking about you for the last 2 weeks or however long it is, because I think about the way you talk, and then I wonder, how does he teach his kids this? Like because you don't have an instruction manual, right? There's no instruction manual for teaching.
I'm working on creating one. It's just, it's this is I think this is the blessing of you and me, my brother, is you help me simplify this, and I'm also learning it myself. So it's as I learn it, I get to simplify it and teach it and share it. But yes, ultimately, it's as simple as that. Own the choices you make. You have to own this and then realize if it's not serving you, it doesn't feel good. And how you know it'll feel good, it'll feel good. If it's in alignment with the will of God for you, if it's in alignment, it's coming through you, it'll feel good. And I don't mean a feel good of the ego. I don't mean a feel good, hey, it gives you a sugar high, Valentina. I don't mean it gives you a sugar high and it feels good and then it drops off. I mean, it feels good long term. It feeds yourself. It feeds your soul. That's what I mean. And you'll feel it. It's a natural smile that just comes up, and that's what it meant to be a child and be in the kingdom. That's what he meant. Having that wonder and curiosity and that just innocence, and knowing that you're innocent. A lot of us, myself included, and again, I make it, JR will bring me back to three-word sentences. I don't know how to pull it simpler than maybe depersonalize. And just remember your innocence. Look at a baby picture of you. Remember that you too are innocent in this, that all events that are happening are neutral. Us making an investment choice, as JR and I were talking before, completely neutral. Nothing good or bad. We're labeling it, right? Hey, it's good or bad, but it's a completely neutral event. It won't mean anything in 1,000 years. You know what I mean? Shit, doesn't mean anything right now. Is there a way to simplify that, JR?
It doesn't mean anything now. My bank account's just a whole lot lighter.
Yeah. And
we assign the meaning, though, right? We assign the meaning.
What my point there is, can you disidentify from it? Can you not? And I just had to talk with my wife is, I am not my bank account. JR, you are not your relationship with Cupcake. You are not your relationship with, you have a son, but that doesn't define who you are. It's just a part of what you do. You run podcasts for people. That's not who you are. Something you do, it's a verb. It describes what you do, right? But it's not a noun. You know what I mean? I wouldn't use that you a noun. When I see you, I see the child of God. I see Christ consciousness. I see the divine of you. I do my best to see that. I don't see you attached to something like, hey, JR's this other thing out here. But we do that. I do that for sure. Hey, I'm this or I'm that. And you get caught up in that. And like, that limits you. It doesn't serve you. And then he can never use you. If you're defining yourself as something else, you can never have something use you. Let me say that even simpler. God can't use you if you're identified as something else. He can only use you if you identify as a child of God.
It makes me think of, remember when we had Ben Humble on the show?
Sure.
He talked about being available. And that's what keeps coming to mind right now as you're saying that, is I'm translating what you're saying into God can't work through you if you're not available, right? If you're not available. And then what we're doing right now, we're in Lent. Catholics are in Lent right now, preparing for Good Friday and Good Saturday and Easter and all that. And one of the big topics that we're talking about during this period is surrender. And what I hear you saying is we're holding on too tightly to who we think we are, who we identify. I'm JR. I'm a real estate investor. I'm Ray. I'm a crypto guy. And we're creating this identity, which you've talked about creating the identity before. But I hear you saying that if you want to live more calm, more peacefully, you got to let go of that and then make yourself available to him, what his will is. Mm-hmm. And that, I mean, that it sounds so simple, but it ain't.
No. And so let's talk about that. So, and I'm going to try and do my best to make it as simple as possible. And
you're talking to your kids. I didn't even know you put the child thing on this. So you know that's like divine, right?
Yeah. No,
I went and checked it out.
Yeah, no, it is. JR, I believe our relationship is divine. I believe everything is divine. Like once you've chosen a path to awaken, whatever path that may be, JR follows more of a Catholic path. I follow more of a spiritual path. All paths are they're meant to be different and they're meant to be unique through you, because there's a unique eye of the needle that the camel, you being the camel, get to pass through. That's going to be unique for you and unique for me. Now, here's what happens. Once that call to awaken, hey, Father, I want to come home. Well, then Father says, hey, JR and Ray, you two connect. Why? Because through you guys' relationship, we can help others come home, and when you can help yourselves come home. Hey, JR, you met Cupcake. All right, she's your best partner to help you come home. That makes sense? So the universe, you already creating, you already manifesting that power of saying, I have a desire. I want to come home. I want to feel peace. I want to feel wholeness. I want to remember what it's like to be in the kingdom, because the kingdom of heaven is inside you. I want to remember what it's like to be there here and now. So all these things that are happening, these relationships, all these events that are happening in your life are meant to help you get back on that path. This is the path of surrender. This is the path of, and again, you and I follow that path differently, but at the end, the way I see it, it's the same path. It's going to lead to the same outcome, just a different journey. So backing up a second, why is that so hard? It's our humanness that makes it hard. How do I even simplify that? Our humanness.
Childish, holding on to that toy or holding on to this moment like that. Yeah. That's part of the innocence, right?
well, no, the innocence would be letting go. Hey, I no longer like this. I created this sandcastle. I no longer like it. I tear it down, and I'll make one. I go have a sandwich for lunch, and I come back and I make a new one. That's a child. What we do is, no, we're that sandcastle. I can't leave the sandcastle. I have to control what happens in the sandcastle. What will others think of me if I tear the sandcastle down and I make a new one? Because the sandcastle isn't fulfilling me. So the humanness in us says, hey, my creations determine my worthiness. Hey, I baked a cake. The cake sucks. Hey, I made this paleo meal and the meal sucks. I suck. At some core of my beingness. Now, I'm keeping this simple, guys. This could be as simple as I'm a real estate investor, or I do this, or I do that. And you identify with someone who makes money, or someone who does this, or someone who does that. Well, that identification can never be free, can never be peace, can never be at joy. They might be happy temporarily, but they'll always need a new fix because they're separate. The way they see themselves is separate. So they need something out there to bring them wholeness. They're not already whole. They're not already abundant. They have to go out there and get their abundance and get their wholeness. They're not worthy inherently. So if your worthiness is outside of you, that'll never work. JR, simplify it for us.
No, you know what it's reminding me of, man? I went to this silent retreat in December, so a little while ago. And one of the young guys sitting at my table was talking about how desirable, because it was a Catholic thing, how desirable Catholic women are with all their virtue and how all men want them. And he was talking about how he can't seem to get a chance with these Catholic girls that he likes because everybody's after them. And he's looking at the picture entirely wrong, because I'm sitting there looking at him and I'm doing my best not to be judgmental now, because it's not up to me to judge. But I judged him, and I said, why don't you make yourself something a Catholic girl will want, right? So he's looking outside of himself, saying something's missing to get that girl, instead of looking at who he needs to be, total, complete, love himself, before that girl will just come to him. Just like our women came to us because we were who we are, right? And so I see that in everything we do, right? You have to take care of you, the whole, the person, love yourself before you can love anybody else. And it makes me think of that guy. You're never going to get a girl if you keep thinking that way.
Yeah. No one outside is going to fill you on the inside. So you get to feel that wholeness yourself. Here's the challenge. Now, it's almost like JL, the human in us created a maze that we identify, that the ego in us, who we think we are. That's it. Tina, who you think you are is not who you really are. But who you think you are created a maze as a game. And then he got lost in the maze. And then that same crazy person that created the maze, that thinks that the maze is real, says, hey, let me lead you out of the maze. But he has no idea how to lead you out of the maze because he created the maze. He can't get you out of the matrix. He is the matrix. This is why surrender and forgiveness is the way to heal. You're in the maze, you're lost, you're separate, and then you think you need to direct your way and course back? No way. That'll never work. Can you follow me on that? Did I make it simple enough there?
It's because you're looking for the answers maybe in the wrong place, right? Obviously, that's what you just said. I think it's an Albert, whose quote is it? I'll butcher it. I'll try to give credit, but the same mind that created the problem can't solve the problem. And that's what I hear you saying is like
the same level of mind that created the problem.
Yeah, right.
That's Albert Einstein. Yeah.
Yeah, something's got to be different. And I guess then anybody who's listening then says, well, what's different? What do I have to look at? How can I be different? This is all I know. So now this is the part where we have to give some practical tips on maybe some of the things that you've done to not use that same mind.
Help me, JR, and help me, Father, please.
There it is. Ask him to guide you since he put us here today.
Yeah. So first, it's one, I think, first of all, it's the realization that of myself. Oh, it's so good. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Jay. Oh, so good. Of myself, I can do nothing. The Father through me does all things. What he meant, of myself, of the human me, of the ego, of the me that identifies with self, with this human body in space and time, I can do nothing. But when I identify with my truth, the Christ of me, of the divine in me, all things are possible. So first, I have to see that I have made a false identification. Hey, I'm identifying as a human. That's not the truth of me. So see it as innocence. Oh, wow. Step back. That's not me. I just made a choice. See it as innocence. Forgive it. Forgive the choice. Forgive yourself for making that choice because it's right. And then ask the Holy Spirit to see the truth. The Holy Spirit can see both sides, can see the human you and can see the divine in you, can see the Christ consciousness of you. Ask the Holy Spirit to go in front of you and forgive it. But you have to first embrace that before you ask the Holy Spirit because you chose that. Holy Spirit didn't choose that for you. God didn't choose that. You chose that. Nothing wrong with choosing that, but you have to embrace your innocence in choosing. As long as we don't embrace our innocence and forgive ourselves, JR, now we judge that creation. And if we're judging that creation, we're back in our humanness. This is why the human can never solve the problem.
All right, I'm just going to share what has worked for me or my perspective, because there's things that I'm looping over and over in my mind multiple times a day now to try to become who I'm supposed to be, who he created me to be.
There we go. And that's much better.
You and I don't know if we had this conversation on the air the last time, but it sticks with me because we hadn't seen each other in a while. And you're like, yeah, I'm growing and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, that's Ray. And then you ask me how I'm doing. And I'm like, I'm trying to get smaller. Like I'm trying to get smaller. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, like, I'm trying to let go. And this is what we say, die to myself and live in him. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm trying to do, is just do away with that facade that I have built on these 46 years on the planet and live through him, with him, for him. And that's surrender was the first part of that, letting go of me, letting go who I thought I was, letting go of everything. And then the other part, and this is the one that's so challenging, especially for alphas like us, is do his will, not my will. Do his will, not my will. Do his will, not my will. Right. I make the plans, I make the goals, all that. I'm terribly unhappy every time I hit them. So what if I just stop doing that, make myself available to him, and let him guide the way? And this is, most of you are going to, if you're like us, you're just going to laugh and say, what an idiot, right? Yep. But I would have said that about me too.
I'm still with you because, you know, what feels to be said right now, and I just, you know, it feels true. Not my will, but thine will be done, right?
Yeah.
Not my will, but your will. And how do I feel? Well, it's not that I want to be less and less. I want to be less and less of who I used to be, who I used to think I was, and more of what he made me to be. I want to be more and more what he made me to be. And then as I become more and more of what he made me to be, right? As I become more and more of what my father made me to be, and then that flows through me, that'll be fulfillment of the soul. At this point, the only game I want to play is fulfillment of the soul. And I've realized that adding more things, chasing more things externally, that doesn't fulfill me at the soul level. Sure, it's cool and I enjoy some things here and there, but at the soul level, this fulfills me. Connecting with you in this way fulfills me. Serving our brothers like this, whether they're ready to get it or not, that fulfills me. That brings peace. That brings joy. That brings meaning. The other stuff, I'm not going to take any of that stuff. If I get one text from someone, and we've gotten a couple, I just haven't shared them with you, of like, dude, through both of us, like God is speaking through both of you guys to help us. Beautiful. If that's all, if one person gets that and I get it too, meaning I'm selfishly doing this for me, because as I share it, I get to learn it better. And JR is probably doing it the same.
You know it.
But that's the benefit of all of us. We get to heal as a collective. So whoever's listening is meant to be listening, and this is meant for them. So, you know, my point, JR, in all this is not the path of the world. So if you try to use the worldly eyes to see this path, you'll never see it. You know what I mean? So there's a saying in this book that I like. He says, insanity seems sane to the insane. And it's true, right? If you're lost in the maze, to think that you know the way out of the maze and you know the way to peace, and that, hey, more profits are going to lead to more peace, or more material things lead to more peace, that's crazy. But that seems normal in that world. So it takes you to get outside of the maze, if you will, and look inward at the maze and say this, but it takes a higher consciousness, meaning the human can't do that. It takes you surrendering and saying, hey, Father, what's going on here? Help me out here. And then he'll come and help. But if you don't make space for that and open, call it empty-headedness. Let's call it empty-headedness. If you don't make space, there's no room for that. And if you don't make space through prayer, through meditation, if you don't make space, if you don't, like you said in the book, if you don't be still and know, be still. If you don't be still and remember who you really are, the child of God, if you don't remember that you want to be all that he made you to be, you said it amazingly well, JR. And it's funny, you said it amazingly well, and I'm like saying it the same way, but it's funny how our paths intersect a lot. Not funny, it's amazing. I want to be all that God made me to be. And I want to follow his will. So now let's get more practical with this. How the hell do you know what his will is? Right?
I can
how
tell
do you
you.
know that? Okay, tell me.
I can tell you how I know.
Tell me, sure.
And I have to remind myself. Multiple times a day.
I feel like my cousin Vinny, you know, when he goes, I would love to hear this.
Yeah, right. My thing is, and I'm teaching Hudson this as we speak, and it helps really disarm any situation, especially domestic situations. If you keep this in mind, you'll have a much more peaceful home. But this is what I tell myself. I chant it in my head. I'm here to serve, not to be served. I'm here to serve, not to be served. I'm here to serve. So something, pile of dishes in the kitchen. I'm here to serve, not be served.
There you go. I like that.
That's what I tell myself about everything now is I'm here to serve. And so you come from that servant mentality. So you let go, right? And he gives us two great commandments is love God above all other, above everything, and love your brother as I have loved you, right? And so if you think with that frame, and then you put in, I'm here to serve and not be served, then you're letting go of yourself. That's where you're becoming smaller, right? You've let go of who you thought you were supposed to be. You've surrendered. His will is for us to love all of the people. And it starts at home, guys. Like 100%. This is my proving ground for all of this. It starts at home with my son, my wife. Yeah. I'm here to serve.
You don't have to go to an ashram somewhere away in church. No. Day to day moment. As soon as you wake up, it starts. And for JR, mine's is much simpler than yours. Yours like, hey, let me serve. For me is she's right.
She's right.
She's right. 99%. Now she won't listen to this, so we're good.
Perfect.
Yeah. 99% of the times our issue is she's actually right. And I'm not willing to be influenced. But the truth is I married her for a reason. So I married her to allow me to influence. So I really get to go into this relationship, and all relationships are holy. They're with the assumption, willing to be influenced, because she probably is right. And she's probably triggering me in some way for me to heal that's coming in with myself. It's not the actual thing she's saying. It's what's being triggered within me. And that's what gets to be healed. So this is how you become. We already are whole. What we have to do now is all these things that we put inside ourselves, these blockages to wholeness, these blockages to, how do I want to say this even simpler, JR? These obstacles we put to the presence of love that we already are. We already are the presence of love. You already are whole, complete, and perfect. We created all these obstacles to that presence. So what we get to do now is remove those obstacles so that we can live in the kingdom. The kingdom is already inside of us, but we just can't see it because we've taken this glass house and muddied up all the windows. So just let's clean the windows so that light can pour forth unimpeded. Well, we can't do that in the human. We have to let go of those obstacles. So yes, that's how the process is of you becoming less and less of who you thought you were and more of who he wants you to be, more and more of who he made you to be. But that gets to come through you. It's not outside of you, JR. So the only, not correction, but the only modification I would say is not live more what he wants me to, have him more live through me. You are the light of the world. You're meant to shine and have that light shine in you. Sure, people are going to hate. Now, when that light shines in you, people are going to hate. You don't think people hated Christ? All day, they still do, right? Because people are scared of the light. The human is scared of the light because they think they're so identified with who they think they are that if they identify with the light, they think that other person will die. But that other person they created is an illusion anyway. It's not really real. It's like a dream. It's someone who they think they are, but it's not their truth. You know, Jay? You can probably say this a lot better than I can, but
I'm trying to think. Oh man, there's a good story of, was it Michelangelo or some sculptor, who made this beautiful work of art, and they asked him how he did it, and his answer was he chipped away everything that wasn't that.
He was making the David. It was Michelangelo.
Yeah,
he was making the
right.
David. Yeah,
right. And that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Chip away everything that's not me.
Chip away everything that's not love. Right? Because in order for you to be the presence of love, everything that isn't love inside you, you have to disidentify with. And we put a lot of things in there that are not like love in us, which is what keeps us from the kingdom. The only thing, JR, that keeps us from the kingdom is ourselves. You know that, right?
Of course. Yes.
It's just us. We're the ones that mess us up all the time. But it's also like forgiving yourself. This is why the process of forgiveness is so important. So, Ben said it well. The beauty of forgiveness, like every day you could find something to forgive in yourself, and you're never forgiving anyone out there. You're never like, no one ever did anything to you. It's you forgiving your own perception, your own projection, your own false identification. You are forgiving your identity. The way you're seeing things is the way you're seeing things isn't the way God would see things. You're forgiving your projection of it. You're forgiving the way you're seeing the thing. You're seeing out of your own traumas. So this blockage you have inside you, you almost took that blockage and you put it in here, and you're seeing through that blockage. You're seeing through that trauma. You're seeing through that trigger. But in truth, nothing's really happening. So you're forgiving that trauma of yourself. And you might have to offer forgiveness to somebody else, but it's always in you. It's always something in you that needs forgiveness. It's never out there. Again, 70 times 7. Talk to me.
I got a lot to forgive myself for.
Every day.
We all do, don't we?
Every day. And it could be something as simple like, and if you ask the question, hey, Father, Holy Spirit, what needs to be forgiven right now? Something will come up. And you don't have to go anywhere to do it. You can do it right then and there. Because everything is consciousness. Everything is one. So you can forgive that person or that thing or that event or that choice. I made some choices in my teen years, and I thought of a couple that were like, man, dude, that was really a douchebag of me. That whenever I think of them, like, guys, I'll be vulnerable here. There's some things I did, as a teenager and a little older that I was like, man, that was really sketchy of me, man. What I did to that girl, I was pretty dirty, man. And forgive myself. Like I didn't know any better. I did what I knew from what the collective had taught me. From what I thought was like macho, the right thing, have 2 or 3 girlfriends, like different things I did that I had just learned. That's what I thought was cool. That's what the human in me said. If you've got this, and then But ultimately, I forgave. Even recently, I went for a walk and I forgave myself for that. I go, man, that was really low of me. And I said, look, if you're ever out there and I can connect with that person, I'm really sorry for what I did. I didn't know any better. Forgive me again. Forgive me for I know not what I did. I didn't at that age. I didn't. Now I do. And I ask for forgiveness, and it's up to them to forgive me or not. That's up to them. I don't have to actually go out there and do it. I can forgive myself of it, and the universe knows. It could be something as simple as that, but all of us have a lot of things that need to be forgiven. And unless you actually forgive yourself for those things, Christ can't come make his home in your heart. Only the forgiven remember their God. And that's all you do. Keep asking for forgiveness. It's a beautiful energy to live in.
Dude, I'm Catholic, so I get to go for reconciliation whenever I want.
You guys have a practice of this. Yeah.
It's part of it. And I think that's one of the things for my brothers in the faith is that I don't think they take advantage of that enough because, dude, I had to go when we were getting Hudson. He has to go to First Communion. So before First Communion, he had First Reconciliation. And I was dreading that. I was dreading it because I had carried around baggage for 15 years that weighed me down, made me feel bad. Talk about all the stuff that's not you, all that past trash, all those past bad decisions weighing you down for years. And it was tough to go to that reconciliation. And I did it. I did it because I had to live by the example. And I had to go. Cupcake went, Huddy went, we all went. And I have to tell you that I walked out of there and I felt like I was on cloud 9, like I was floating. Why? Because the weight of all that crap that was no longer me that I carried around was taken off of me.
It's amazing.
And you're saying the same thing is forgive yourself. You don't need to go to the priest and do a confession. You could just think about it, forgive yourself and move on. That's psycho-cybernetics. Psycho-cybernetics is repainting the picture that once held you back.
For me, what I do after I forgive myself, I ask the Holy Spirit to forgive me. And then, I kind of offer it up. Like once I always take ownership of the decision, whatever that is, and not ownership, but ownership out of remembering my innocence. going back to the point of this thing, ownership, remembering that I'm still innocent in this choice. I just did what the collective taught me to do. And again, I'm not dismissing my responsibility, JR, but I'm more like, dude, forget, like he said it well. Our master said it well. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm a teenager. I'm lost. You know, right? Yeah. So just forgive yourself and move on. And like, I love how you said it, JR. You feel so much lighter after. You feel like a burden's been lifted off of you. Like, you almost feel like something that no amount of money or no amount of accolades could ever buy. And JR, it's hard to describe, right, Jay? Like, it's hard to describe for someone who hasn't experienced it. But guys, if you could just take one thing, and you know, because it comes up, what happens is you feel it, you know it, it's in there. And like, you try and drink it, you try and like escape it, or you try and sex it, or you try and like whatever you try and do to like not feel it, but you know it's in there. So this thing that's in there wants to come up and out. It wants to be released. Why? Because your father wants the prodigal son to come back home again. So you get to release that. But if you stuff it down in there and you don't let it come up, you'll stay in suffering, guys. So JR and I, the prescription, if you will, Jay, would be some kind of forgiveness practice, whether it's confession through JR, or you forgive it in yourself, or you journal it out and ask the Holy Spirit to forgive it in you. Whatever it is, there's a lot of things in there. And one at a time, you're not going to do it all, but every day there's something to forgive. If every day you can forgive one thing, that's how you heal. And we're meant to heal. The time has been given to all humans here for us to heal. And what are we healing? The misperception of separation, that we're separate from our creator and we're not whole. Like I told my boy Moses, yo, homie, chill right there. The place thou standest is holy ground. Why? Because you're whole there. You're made whole there. You were made whole. So not only is it whole, but it's holy because you're whole and you're standing on it. But if you forget that and you think you're separate and you identify with the humanness, you're bound to suffer. The only choice is suffering. And you're going to keep suffering until you get forgiveness, whether it's in this lifetime or another lifetime, but you're going to keep repeating it because these things are meant to be forgiven and you're meant to learn the lesson. The body, the mind is nothing but a teaching and learning tool. That's what you're here for. The body, mind is a teaching and learning tool. And when it's done, we go away. Like, but you, the core of you, the essence of you, the conscious you will continue. Right? So if you don't get the lessons in this lifetime, not only will your kids have to learn it and repeat it, but then you'll get to come back and learn it and repeat it. So JR and I can do better. This morning, JR, you'll like the story, separate story, but this morning I take my daughter to school. She said, Daddy, I want to go on this bike. So I bought her a pink bike and it's all like a big bike. And she goes, I said, all right. So I put on my weight vest to walk her. I'm doing 75 hard. I walk her up to school. And I'm like, holy crap, how am I going to get back home?
Borrow her bike.
Yeah, I'm walking a little bike back with a little helmet. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna ride this thing because it's a long ride and I'm walking it sideways and it's awkward. So I get on this pink bike, looking like Debo, like a Hispanic Debo, with the weight vest on, and then I got my knees up here. But I'm enjoying it, and I got to see her smile, and we had a great time. She hit a trash on the way there, but like she didn't like. I just made a wrong choice. I hit the trash. She didn't beat herself up on it, right? I just hit the trash. So, okay, make a new choice. Don't hit the trash again. It's not going to move, right? I don't know what the point was. I just thought it was funny.
I wish we had a video of that.
I'll get you one. It'll probably happen again. I'll get you one. Oh,
you with her helmet on.
Yeah. No, I've got this little kid seat bike. It's like 6 inches by 9 and it's going up, you know where. And every time I see a bump, oh no, there it goes. My point there is that you'll continue to feel that bike seat up your butt every time you make the old choice. It's not going to feel good. You're going to suffer in that old choice. So just forgive yourself. So one of the key takeaways for this one, you already know what needs to be forgiven in you. Anyone who's listening to us, and it's what keeps coming up that you keep drowning back down. JR, you got an example of any of those? You don't probably do a whole lot of that now, but I'm sure in the past you've got things where you keep drowning them out. It wants to come up. You know it's there, but rather than listen to it because it hurts too much, you end up like doing something or escaping somewhere or doing something to not have that come up.
My anger, coming from where I did, you had to have a mean face and be ready to fight at any time. And I didn't let that go. And I'm just now having an experience where I'm trying to really release that, chip away that part of me. But yeah, that comes up, and I'm from New York, right? That what is this? What is this effing idiot looking at? Yeah. I'll smack you. That kind of attitude.
and he honestly, he might just be admiring the Christ in you.
Yeah.
But it's all your misperceptions of like, well, he's trying to test me. He's trying to see what I have.
Yeah,
like, no, he's not. Like, he just might be, it's your own.
He doesn't even know you exist. Get over yourself. That's more like it. But yeah, that's important. One that I've been working towards the last year.
Well, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. And too, I think you said it beautifully, man, in terms of it's chipping away David's, whatever David isn't. It's chipping away whatever God didn't make. And all those things God didn't make, we put on, we added on. So we added on fear, we added on hate, we added on all these other things that aren't what he made. So in essence, we get to chip away at those things, but not by fighting with them, JR, because you and I have tried to fight with them. You don't fight with them. You forgive them and you release them. And you can't do them in the human way by trying to force and control things. Let him do that. You acknowledge it. You will say, hey, I created this. I'm responsible for this, but I also am innocent in this. And now I choose to forgive this and I choose to release this. And you offer it up to a higher power, offer it up to the Holy Spirit and just release it. And I guarantee you will feel, I can't describe anything other than like maybe my child being born that comes close to the level of feeling of just weightlessness that you'll feel as that comes off. And the more and more you do it, the more and more you want to live in that energy. This is what he said. I mean, he said it well, 70 times 7. You want to forgive 70 times 7 times.
Especially yourself.
That's all you're ever forgiving, guys. You're never forgiving anybody else. The truth is you're only forgiving yourself. I'll say it well now. You're forgiving your perception. You're forgiving your false perception. You're forgiving that you're seeing what isn't really there. How do I say that simpler? You're forgiving the dream. You're forgiving that what you're seeing isn't what's actually happening. What you're seeing is the humanness in it. You're not seeing with the eyes of God. Holy Spirit, help me correct my perception of this so I can see the truth and not this illusion that this human made up. That's the truth. You're forgiving the colors that you've colored it, and you've colored it with fear. You're forgiving the glasses through which you're seeing it with, that you created. Because all that's there is love and truth. All that there is love the Father with all your heart and soul and love your neighbor like yourself. Everything else you created. So you're forgiving everything else that isn't that. If that makes sense. To put it in JR's words. He likes when I use his words better.
No, I like when you keep things simple, so I know what you're talking about.
No, dude, I'm learning this myself. So anything else you want to connect on, my brother? I think
that's it, bro. I'm just here for you. I told you. I just show up. Yeah. That's all I do. It's goes back to that. You said it a while ago. It should be serendipitous. Whatever the conversation is, I don't know. I just show up.
It is. I mean, and what more of today that I actually called it what I called it, and we ended up talking about
crazy.
it.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. So it's what it is. JR, man, I appreciate you being on here, and we'll pick it up in a couple weeks. So I'll hit you up again. But thank you, my man.
Thank you, brother, and thank you guys, whoever tuned in and stayed here.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you guys. Please text us back, share it. Love you guys.